Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video we will be talking about American industrialization. We are going to be analyzing industrialization, the growth of railroads and the free enterprise system, and we will also explain the effects of scientific discoveries and technological innovations. When we are finished, you will have the opportunity to complete a graphic organizer by researching some of these scientific discoveries and innovations from the Industrial Revolution. Alright, so let's talk about some of the new resources that really pioneered the Industrial Revolution in the United States. First, there's the availability of steam and electricity, which replaced human and animal strength. So instead of relying on brute force, people could now rely on steam-powered or electric-powered machinery. We also have the availability of iron that to replace wood in structures, and then eventually iron was replaced by steel, which was a lot stronger. The Bessemer process allowed for the production of steel to be faster and more efficient and also more economical. So that really spurred the industrial age in the United States. Steam power was extremely important as it powered the textile mills, spindles, and the sewing machines and other equipment. And it comes from burning coal to heat water, and therefore coal mining became a huge industry in the United States. The center of the industry was located in western Pennsylvania, where there were there was a lot of coal available. And for example, to give you an idea of how much coal was being mined, in 1860 there were 14 million tons of coal that were mined in this area to supply the factories in the northeastern part of the United States. Let's talk about some of the great American innovators of the time and their contributions. So Samuel Morse invented the telegraph, which is a device that allowed for electric currents to transmit these messages through beeps along these wires, and eventually even a wire was connected between the United States and Europe to transmit messages across the ocean. Alexander Graham Bell also improved communication by inventing the telephone, and both of these devices allowed for people to communicate across long distances. Thomas Edison is credited with producing the first electric light bulb, and this resulted in the access to longer hours in factories because they didn't have to depend on sunlight all the time. They could extend working hours, and so factories became more productive in that respect. And electricity was eventually used for other purposes as well. Electricity powered motors and machines in the factories. We also saw electricity used to power streetcars and subway trains to improve transportation, and eventually even used to refrigerate food, and it raised the standard of living in the United States. A few other important innovators you should have on your radar are Elias Howe, who invented the sewing machine, and there was a lot of textile manufacturing and clothing manufacturing factories in the Northeast. You have Elisha Otis, who invented the passenger elevator. So in the cities there were very tall buildings, and now people could move through the building a lot more efficiently. Christopher Scholes invented, here's the elevator, sorry about that, the typewriter, so better and for record keeping and communication. And then you have the Wright brothers, who invented the airplane. Now I want to talk about the railroad system. So the railroad existed for a pretty long time in the northeastern part of the country, which was more populated. But eventually they decided to make a railroad that connected the east and the west coast. So separate crews worked on the railroads. One started from California moving eastward, and the other one started from the middle of the country where there were already railroads and started moving westward. They had to cut through the Sierra Nevada mountains. This was back-breaking work, very dangerous. Many people died doing this. Many of the railroad workers were actually Chinese immigrants who had come to work for very little pay and to work very long hours. Some of them made between $26 to $35 per month, and they worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week. They also had to provide their own tents and their own food while they were working. But eventually, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in 1869, and it was joined at Promontory Point, Utah. This reduced the transportation from the East Coast to the West Coast from something that would take months to just a couple of weeks. And these new tracks were also going to be laid in other parts of the country, and it brought Americans closer together because transportation time was greatly reduced. Here's a map of the Transcontinental Railroad. So again, there were a lot of railroad systems in this part of the country already, but they started moving towards the west. Another group started in the east, and then they connected. And then eventually other railroad lines were also created to connect different parts of the continent. Okay, so let's talk about the economic growth that we experienced during the industrial era in the United States. So we see the development of a national market as a result of having access to railroads, canals, telegraphs, and telephones. This makes the shipping of raw materials and finished goods a lot faster and less expensive. So investors begin to mass produce goods to sell to different people all over the country. They also come up with new methods of selling. Things like department stores were created, like Macy's, as you see pictured here, and a lot of other chain stores like Bloomingdale's. And Sears also became a very successful company during this time period with their mail order catalogs. They would send these to rural areas, and people could just place orders and have things delivered to them thanks to the invention of the railroads. They also promoted their goods in magazines. A lot of them were targeted at women. And the economic growth also had a huge impact on the population. So the population more than tripled during this time period. Between 1850 and 1900, the population grew exponentially, and this was fueled by a high birth rate and also by an influx of immigration from Europe. This increase in population also created favorable conditions for business expansion, because the more people that are living in a country, the more demand there is for goods and services, and also you have a cheap labor force coming in the form of immigrants who are willing to work for very little money and for long hours in these factories to produce these goods. We also see the emergence of corporations as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Businesses begin to issue what they call shares or stocks to their investors, and each shareholder then becomes a partial owner of the company, and it makes it possible for many people to pool their money together and invest in a company and also make a profit. So the free enterprise system is one of those trademarks of the American culture. In the free enterprise system, individuals are free to produce and sell whatever they wish. No one tells them what to make. No one tells them what to buy. You buy whatever you can afford, and you have the freedom to make your own economic choices in a free enterprise system. In a free enterprise system, producers are the ones who decide what to produce, how much to produce, what they want to charge for it, and what they want to pay their employees. And the government, in a truly free enterprise system, the government does not intervene. Those decisions are made solely by the producers, and they're influenced by competition or by supply and demand. There are benefits to the free enterprise system, which include the ability to make a profit by investing your own money. There's also free enterprise system allows for competition, which gives consumers a choice. So if there are, we'll give you an example. If you can buy a toy at Toys R Us for $20, but Walmart sells the exact same toy for $15, well, you are going to choose the cheapest product, and so competition is going to drive down prices. Toys R Us would have to lower their price to match it, or maybe lower it even more to beat someone like Walmart. And so producers, because of competition, are forced to increase the quality and lower prices, and this is good for consumers. And so that brings us to the end of the lecture. If you guys have any questions, write them down and bring them to class, and thank you for watching.